Okay. All right. So I think I am back. I think I am back. So my computer just overheated randomly. Um, so yeah. So we were talking about before the regularly scheduled interruption. Uh, Actually, I don't even remember what we were talking about. So I'm just gonna go to the latest personal limitations. Um, so even with this, right? You may say, "Hey, what if something happens that's unexpected? What if it doesn't work out?" Right? That fear becomes a personal limitation that can hold you back from moving forward. But guess what? What's the worst that can actually happen? It doesn't work out, and you start over like this. So a lot of times we allow our own imaginations to stop us from moving forward and to stop us from progressing. And so we miss miracles, we miss money, and we miss impact because of our own personal limitations that are often rooted in fear. What will they think of me? Right? What if I lose friends? What if they think start thinking that I think I'm better than them? Right? If they are that insecure, then they may not be who you need to be around anyway. So if people are intimidated by your progress, then don't let them be the things that hold you to procrastination. Don't let them keep you back from where you're supposed to be because you are thinking about what they might think, right? So don't let people be the reason why you procrastinate. Don't let them be the reason why you don't progress and move forward. Uh, and so, if people are that intimidated by your progress and where you're going, you probably want to recreate that friend circle and that social circle from the beginning anyway, because people should not be intimidated by your growth, by your progress, and by your momentum. If they're intimidated by it happening, then they're not going to be able to help you cultivate it, and they're not going to be able to help you defend from the attacks that come with making progress. So, personal limitations. You have to perceive what your personal limitations are, because if you don't, you're going to end up procrastinating later on. Because those things, you have to be honest with yourself and identify, hey, fear has been holding me back for a long time. What people think about me has been holding me back for a long time. What my family says about me has been holding me back from a long time. There's so many people pretending to be people that they are not because of what other people will think and of what other people will say. But you can't let that hold you back from where you're supposed to be in life. So personal limitations are a major source of procrastination because the imaginations that we make up dictate what we do and don't do. They create parameters around our momentum that God never intended for us to have. So you have to push past those personal limitations in order to move forward. Now, not only do we need to um, perceive, right? So we're doing the three P's to conquering and dismantling procrastination. So, right, so we need to perceive all of these things. We need to be able to see exactly what's going on. We need to know our audience. We need to be able to discern what they need and what their pain points are. We need to know the season that we're in and that they're in so that we can make sure we don't do something prematurely or even procrastinate so long that our audience doesn't even need what we have anymore or they don't even want what we have. So the next thing outside of perceiving, we've got to plan. We've got to plan. Uh, A lot of us have very large vision and large goals that are not measurable, and there are no plans. There's no strategic plan behind what it is that we're trying to do. The larger your vision, the more strict your planning needs to be. So if you've perceived where you are, what you want to do, where you want to go, you've got to create a plan to get there. Now, here is the thing. There are a lot of people who, one, have big dreams with no deadlines. I'll say that one more time. I know it wasn't deep enough for you, but I'm going to say it again. There are a lot of people who have big dreams but no deadlines. And so what can happen is you kick that dream can down the road so long that you go to the grave with it. It's happened time and time again. Um, Even things, and I know you don't like this, but I'm going to say it anyway again too. Even things, because I know this, what I'm about to say, it can attack the religious nature in you. Even things that God says to you. For certain things, you need to have deadlines behind those after you figure out what you're supposed to do. Because if you don't have a deadline, when are you actually going to do it? When I wrote my first book, I did not publish it for a while, and I didn't finish everything for a while. And the Lord said to me, "You didn't set a deadline to give yourself an excuse to procrastinate." Because what we do is we say, well, I'm so busy doing this and I'm so busy doing that, and I don't have time to do that. And so when you don't have a deadline, you're not making a commitment to complete it, but you're giving yourself that space to procrastinate. And so a lot of people who deal with procrastination have these subtle commitment issues, committing that time, committing that energy, committing that effort, committing to that structure and that discipline that it's going to take to get it done. So if you know you're supposed to write a book, you need to give yourself a deadline. If you know you're supposed to launch a business, right? I don't want you to have a dream business for 10 years and 20 years and you never move on it. Because all of the time that you're waiting for something magic, you know, it's not going to happen if you don't make it happen. Even if God showed it to you, He's just giving you instructions of what you're supposed to do. Like we talked about the other day when I did the live on gift negligence. It's God's job to give us the gifts, but it's our job to cultivate them. It's God's job to place the seed of the prophetic word in us, to place the seed of the vision in us, the idea, the wow, this is what I should do, this is where I need to be, this is what's going on. It's His job to place those things on our hearts, but it's our job to cultivate and manifest them. And of course, we know there are some things that are going to happen suddenly, serendipity, and all those things. I'm not talking about those things in this context. I'm talking about the things that we're supposed to do, that we're supposed to control, and we're supposed to handle. You've got to put a deadline behind all of that vision, or else it's going to continue indefinitely. And it's never going to happen unless, watch this, favor hits you only to expose the fact that you are not ready. And you miss the opportunity, you miss the moment because the favor came to expose, right? And when I say a favor, some opportunity comes to expose to you that you're not ready, you're not prepared. And so you try to rush and get it done, but you don't have enough time to do that. So you have to make sure that you begin to place deadlines. And I know you might be thinking, what if my deadline and my timeline is off? What if it's wrong? It's okay. Benny Hinn said, you cannot make a U-turn in a parked car. You can't make a U-turn in a parked car. Once you get moving in a direction, if your deadline is unrealistic, if it's off, If it's not God's will, if it or just in the natural, it's silly, right? Either a person, you're gonna have a dream, or the market is gonna tell you, look, fam, this deadline is not it because you're just not doing this right. Right? You're going to learn somehow that that deadline is off, and it's okay. But you have to move in a direction, because if you don't have a deadline, then you are moving indirectly, and that means you're only moving according to the direction of the wind blowing, and the wind might not blow your way to your goal. And I've seen it time and time again. So you have to have a deadline. Now, so as you know where you're going, you have to make sure that you have a schedule that moves according to that deadline. And when I say a schedule, I'm talking about your day to day life. I'm talking about your intermediary deadlines. I'm talking about how you handle and manage your time, right? So if I have a goal, for instance, I am writing another book right now. I am going to publish the book on May 30th. My deadline to finish writing the book is May 12th. Okay, so right now I have a schedule to spend at least 1 hour per day between now and May 12th, so that I'll be done with my writing. And so I have a systematic schedule that is going to help me arrive at that deadline that is set. Uh, Sometimes we are so willy nilly, right? There's no structure, there's no discipline, uh, that we just think it's just supposed to come together, but it doesn't work that way. You have to discipline yourself. And you may say, "Hey, I'm not a disciplined person. I'm just not that type of person." Well, do you have a heartbeat? Because your heart is disciplined to beat at a certain rate per minute, right? The blood in your body is disciplined to flow at a particular velocity. You are created by a God of discipline. Discipline is in you. You just have to embrace it. You have to live according to it, and you have to choose to do it. But if you want greatness, if you want to reach right the peak of what God called you to do, you've got to have deadlines, and you've got to have goals. You have to have deadlines, and you have to have a schedule that's going to help you reach those deadlines. So, because we don't have deadlines, we procrastinate. Because we're not systematic, we allow things to continue indefinitely into eternity, and we allow things to slip through the cracks. Deadlines are very, very critical because they hold you accountable. And in addition to deadlines, we have to have goals, right? And a goal is when I'm saying goals, I want you to have a specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound goal. That's called a SMART goal. You can Google that, SMART goals. There's some variation in there as well. But the reason you need to have a SMART goal is because I can say my goal can be, I want to be an author one day. But that is so vague, and that is so um, it's difficult if someone is mentoring me and I say I want to be an author one day. They're going to have to push me to be more more specific with that goal, because there is no time related, there's no deadline related to that, there's no quantity related to that, there's nothing really to hold me accountable to that. What if I can write like a 5-page book and publish it on Amazon and say I've reached my goal? No, but so you want to be an author. What type of author do you want to be? A fiction author or a nonfiction author? What type of things do you want to write about? Do you want to write about religion and politics? Do you want to write self help books? Do you want to write history books? Do you want to help people with problems in fitness? Do you want to help people with their emotional and mental state of being? How many books do you want to write in your lifetime? Do you want to write a book every year? Do you want to, when it's do you want to write 50 books, right? How often do you want to publish? What's the frequency of creation that you want to put forth? You have to get more specific. And so your goal may be, I want to write 10 books on the topics of, the prophetic and your relationship with God. I'm just making up something right now. And I want to finish these 10 books within 10 years. So I want to write 10 books on the prophetic and your relationship with God within 1 decade. Now that's something that is measurable. It is something that's attainable, right? It's realistic. It's something that's time bound. So if it's 5 years in and if I've written 0 books, whoever's holding me accountable can say, hey, do you still want to be an author that's written 10 books? Do you still want to do that? Because I'm looking here and I don't see anything that's coming forth from you. You're not bearing the fruit of what you say your goal is. So when you have goals, you want to be more specific. And so that may be like your overarching goal. And then your sub goal for 2020 may be, hey, I want to write a book this year. I want to write a book on the prophetic this year. And the topic is going to be X, Y, and Z. So those are your goals. Now, a lot of people don't set goals because of this fact. They are, again, personal limitations. They're afraid that they're going to fail. So what if I mess up? What if I don't attain my goal? There's so many times where I've set a goal and I did not attain it. What do you do when you don't reach your goals? You reevaluate and you learn. You say, why didn't I reach my goal? Was my goal unrealistic from the start? Did I not have the resources necessary to reach the goal? You're not reaching your goal doesn't mean that you are less of a person. It does not mean that you're unfaithful. It doesn't mean that you're not worthy. It doesn't mean any of those things. Not reaching a goal simply is a learning opportunity to attain the next goal, to be better, to improve, right? There's some people who may have had plenty of businesses that had goals for 2020 that they're not going to obtain because something unexpected happened. It doesn't mean that they're not good businesses, that they don't have good executives, they don't have good leadership, but something interrupted their progress. So even when interruptions come to your goals, don't be discouraged because interruptions occur. And so that is what we have to understand. We have to deal with reality, with where we are. We just evaluate, adjust, and progress. So we've talked about the deadlines and the goals. Let's deal with the support system briefly. There are so many people who have such profound ideas, amazing abilities, and things that they want to do in ministry and in business that they're unable to complete because of a poor support system. And let's deal with a few aspects of the support system. So one, if the counsel that you have is on the same level as you, is only on the same level as you in what you're doing, then you're going to be limited. You can only go as far as the counsel that you have around you. You need someone and someones who have done more than you, who know more than you, and who have experienced more than you. And it may or may not be age-based. Why is that? Because they will know, right? If someone who has launched, 3 nonprofits and they're all doing well speaks to me versus someone who has revelation about business, I'm going to listen to the person who has done it, right? I'm going to listen to the person who has done it, not someone who just has revelation on it. Experience is something that's important. You want to connect with people who have been where you want to go and have finished what you want to start. It's important to be connected with mentors in your particular field of expertise. In addition to having mentors, it's great to have mentors that you can talk to personally who have done it, who have lived it. But you also want to surround yourself with resources like books, courses, things that are going to help you progress, that are going to support you pushing out what you need to push out. You, we don't know as much as we need to know for our purpose and for what we're trying to do. We should be constantly reading. We should constantly be learning. We should be consuming information to progress and progress and get better and get better and get better. If you want to go to the masses, if you want to go to the millions, if you want to reach these very large visions, even if God is the one who gave them to you, there's a lot of information that you need. And we live in a culture that thrives off of surface level information because we have so many people launching things prematurely. They don't have authority over what they're talking about. They don't know what they're dealing with. They just have some revelation on it. They have not experienced anything that they're dealing with. And so they can only coach you from the point of revelation. They cannot help guide you from anything of experience. And so it's important to be able to connect with resources that have experienced what you're trying to progress into, and not just deal with surface level information. Because you can do anything today. You can publish a book in 5 minutes. You don't have to have any type of authority. You can open a church. You can just do whatever you want today. You can hop on a Facebook Live, without much effort and not have any type of experience, authority, or power with anything that you're dealing with. So our culture thrives off of superficial information. If you have poor information, you will procrastinate. Your sources of information determine the pace that you can go on. If your sources are slow, if your sources are shallow, then your progress is going to be slow and shallow. You're going to waste time trying to figure out where to learn what and how to do this and how to do that. So when you don't have the right volume of information, you are going to waste time. And the last piece I'll deal with, I can do this all day really, but a good bit of this is in my first book as well, so you can get that as a resource, The Dangers of a Supernatural Lifestyle. The support, you need people to help you, okay? You can't do it by yourself. You need people to help you. If your vision is large, if your ideas are large, you need people to help you. You need hands and feet. A common problem with visionaries is they place their hands where their head should be. They touch things that they are not supposed to touch. You have to discipline yourself with how you're going to spend your time and where you're going to go. And so, for instance, if you're trying to launch a business we're just going to make up something random here. If you're trying to launch a new app and you don't have experience developing apps, don't waste your time trying to learn to be an app developer. Okay? Don't waste your time trying to learn how to program and get a computer science degree, because that's going to add an additional 4 more years to what you're doing. What you need to do is you need to find people who can help you, who can point you in the right direction. Find people who know how to make apps. Find people who at least know how to find someone who makes apps, who can help you. There are so many, for instance, I'm just throwing out examples. Maybe one of y'all is trying to make an app. There are so many computer science undergraduate students who are in need of projects to do to build their portfolio for after for when they do interviews with tech companies. So so maybe you need to connect with somebody who can connect you with one of them if you can't afford to pay a developer to do that. But there are ways, right? You can waste time doing things that you are not sensitized to do, that you're not created to do, that you're not good at doing. All right. Don't waste your time YouTubing everything that you don't know how to do, because it's going to take away time that you need to be investing in the core growth principles, the core practices of your ministry, of your business, of your career, whatever the end goal of what you're trying to do is. You can really miss the mark with there being so much information out there. YouTube is a great resource. Courses are great resources, but don't major in something that you should be minoring in. Get help. Find somebody to help you. Ask your friends to help you. Ask your family to help you. Don't do it by yourself. Don't be the only source of your growth and inspiration. Get support, because the if you don't get that support, you're going to try to do things that's going to waste your time. It's going to take you more years to get it done because you're trying to do things that don't progress your dreams, that don't progress your goals, that don't bring you closer to your deadlines, because you're wasting time on things that have nothing to do with what you're really good at. So focus on what you're good at and get help to help you with everything else. And don't say, I can't find help. Ask God to help lead you, ask God to help you, and think outside of the box. Maybe take an hour and sit down and write down all the places where you can possibly get help from what you're doing. Even if you can't get anything done can't think of anything in that first 5 minutes, sit there, keep thinking, rethinking until something comes, because there are ways to get support for what you're doing. But you have to, it may not be out of convenience, it may not be comfortable or obvious, but you have to get support in order to get it done. So we've gone over the first P was perceive our audience, pain points, season, and personal limitations. If we don't do these things, we're going to waste a whole bunch of time and a whole bunch of energy and a whole bunch of money. Plan. If we don't plan, we're going to allow our projects, our goals, and our desires to be, they're just going to be indefinite. They're going to be sitting there forever, and we're not going to make progress on them because we don't have a deadline, we don't have a goal, we don't have a direction, we don't know where we're going. So they're just going to sit there. So the last thing that we need to do is we need to produce. So once we've planned everything, once we've perceived where we are, we've counted the cost, we've got to produce. We've got to produce. And this is where it gets into the piece of, hey, what is the scale of what I'm producing? Right? So it's related to goals, but it's more focused on the size of what we're building, the size of what we're building. Is this something that I'm doing? Is this a local thing? Is this a regional thing? Is this a national thing? Is this an international thing? And if the end goal is something that's national or international, what can I do locally or regionally to start? So you have to figure out what the minimum thing that you can produce is. A lot of people waste time because they rush into international waters or they rush into national waters and they haven't even mastered local water, right? They haven't even mastered their backyard. So the scale of which you start determines where you can progress into. You got to scale at the appropriate speed. So don't move. So there, for instance, there's like a bajillion churches that are such and such international ministries or this and this ministries. And it's like, well, did God even call you to do that? Because there's like 3 people here, and maybe He did, but you might be trying to do something prematurely. So you have to think about all of that. Work with where you are and determine the size. So, for instance, I'm working on a project now where I'm trying to figure out the appropriate scale to begin. So, if I work with 20 clients, then that might be too large for my staff to handle at this present time because it's not that many. So maybe I have to start with 2 to 5, and then we can grow to 20, and then we can grow to 100. So you have to think. So if you're an author, how many books do you want to sell, right? So if you don't sell your books, nobody's going to read your message. If you don't sell your books, nobody's going to know about what you're doing. So do you want to sell 1,000 books? Do you want to sell 100 books? And so based on whatever scale goal you have, that determines what you are doing every day, determines your direction, and determines what's going on. Or maybe you say, hey, I want to self-publish now, but I want to build up until I can get a deal, a contract with a publisher. And so I'm going to try to sell, 300 books out of my self-publishing, but that's only a stepping stone to when I get picked up by a traditional publisher. So you have to think about that. And because that has to deal with your awareness. If no one knows what you're doing, right, nobody's going to be a part of your business. Nobody's going to be a part of your ministry. Nobody's going to be a part of what you're doing with your career. And that is going to slow you down. That is going to lead to procrastination based on discouragement, because it seems like you can't move, you can't produce. You've done all this work planning and you perceiving, and it's like, oh my goodness, all this work that was done, and it's like nobody's aware of what I'm doing, and so then you give up. And so people get stuck in projects for years and they never pick them back up because they didn't know how to to produce. But you have to figure out what channels of awareness you need to use to allow people to know what you're doing. Is it social media? Is it, community? Is it in person? Is it handing out flyers? Is it making phone calls? You need to figure out what channel you need to use. Who are going back to your audience, right? Is what you're doing, is it for business owners? Is it for individuals? Is it for organizations? Right? Based on who your audience is, that will determine what vehicles you use to raise awareness about what you're doing. And sometimes, well, often it will take time. It will take time to build that brand, to build awareness about what you're doing. So don't be discouraged because you don't have 1 billion followers on Facebook tomorrow. And not to mention that likes and followers don't necessarily generate revenue. Just because someone has a bunch of followers does not mean that they're making any money from them at all. That takes strategic planning. Doesn't mean that they are making any impact on them at all. It doesn't even mean that they're liking their posts based on how the algorithms actually work anyway. So you have to get awareness, not just clicks and likes, but you have to get awareness that it is attached to your goals, awareness that drives people to the next step in what you're trying to do, whether it's buying your product, becoming a part of your ministry, whatever it is. You have to raise awareness or you're going to end prematurely because you are discouraged. And so nobody wants that. So it's critical for us to keep all of these things in mind, to be effective and to be fruitful. Um, it's one thing to do something, and it's another thing to do it with effectiveness and with fruitfulness. You have to be very mindful of what it takes to go where you say you want to go and be where you say you want to be. You have to set those deadlines. You have to be ready. You have to be organized, and you have to be dedicated to get it done. So this is the three P's to dismantling procrastination. Your perception, your planning will allow you to walk in productivity. And once you're producing, you have to pay attention to your scale and the awareness of what you're doing so that you can be very, very, very fruitful because we want you to be successful. We want you to maximize everything that you're supposed to do. So I'll be talking a bit more about this. And I'm also opening up slots for coaching. So I'll be honest, I actually did not want to do this because of time. But people have been asking me to do a formal coaching on kind of these practical matters for a while. So here it is based on the man upstairs. So I'm going to be doing coaching to help you walk you through your ideas, your goals, and your plans to full execution. So I'm launching a program called Master Your Minute. Master Your Minute, and so it's going to be a group coaching program where you have the ability to get the accountability, feedback, and thoughts that you need to be able to push into the next level. So if you're interested in that, I'm going to find the window here to put this link. Okay. If you're interested in that, you can fill out this form on Calendly. Um, and so I'm going to be accepting 5 to 10 people this month for coaching. Um, so it'll be. Oh, I don't think it went to Facebook. Let's try again. So it'll be about. So it'll be a 1 month program. A 1 month program. And whatever you do, we're going to launch something in 30 days. So we're not going to procrastinate. Whatever you bring to me, we're going to launch a minimal viable product of it in 30 days. So you immediately have a deadline walking in to the program. So if you're interested in that, just fill out the form and we'll go from there. So that's what I have for you all. Hope this helps. Got any questions? Let me know. But you want to plan, you want to perceive, you want to produce because it's time. It's a time to produce in the kingdom. It's a time to produce. So once again, manage your time. Don't let your time manage you. And walk in the godly ambition that you should have so that you'll be fruitful in this season. So love you all. God bless you. Stay safe. Stay focused. And I'll see you probably tomorrow. I'll be on live randomly, I think, at some point. So have a good one.